Officer Thorne's roar ripped through the park's quiet. I count to 3, or rage here rips her throat out. The military-grade pit bull strained against its leash, a low growl vibrating from its chest, its muscles coiled like steel springs. Pinned against the graffiti-covered wall was a young woman, Chloe, her artist's hands trembling, her face pale with terror. She was his sister. The cop was enjoying the fear in her eyes, a cruel smirk twisting his lips. But then, a shadow detached itself from the twilight. Before I show you exactly what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. It helps us a lot. Now let's get into it. The air in Red Hook Industrial Park was thick with the smell of rust and cold concrete. The Red Hook Industrial Park wasn't a place for quiet contemplation. It was a skeleton of industry, where abandoned warehouses and rusted shipping containers stood like tombstones under the fading Brooklyn sky. Yet, this was where Chloe, Jason Statham's younger sister, found her inspiration. The stark lines and chaotic splashes of graffiti fueled her art. Tonight, however, her canvas had become a cage. Jason had been on his way to meet her, planning to take her for a late dinner. He just finished a grueling week consulting on a film set, choreographing fight scenes with a precision that left Hollywood stuntmen breathless and bruised. He was 60 now, but age had only honed him, stripping away the unnecessary, leaving behind weathered oak and forged steel. He saw the scene from 50 yards away. The police cruiser parked haphazardly on the grass, the 2 uniformed figures and the unmistakable silhouette of his sister cornered. His walk didn't change pace, but an icy calm settled over him. This was familiar territory. The predator, the prey, and the protector. She matches the description of a vandal we're looking for. Officer Thorne lied, his voice slick with false authority. His rookie partner, a kid named Evans, shifted nervously, his hand hovering over his belt. "Now, why don't you give us your name, sweetheart?" Chloe shook her head, her voice a whisper. "I wasn't doing anything. I'm just sketching." "Sketching? Or casing the place for your gang?" Thorne sneered, giving the leash a sharp tug. The pit bull, rage, lunged forward, its teeth snapping inches from Chloe's face. She cried out, stumbling back against the cold brick. That's when Jason arrived. He didn't run. He simply appeared, a presence that seemed to suck the sound from the air. He wore a simple dark t-shirt and cargo pants, his bald head reflecting the last rays of sunlight. "That's enough," Jason said. His voice was low, gravelly, without a trace of panic. It was a statement of fact. Thorne turned, surprised. "Who the hell are you? This is official police business." "Back off." Jason's eyes, cold and focused, flickered from Thorne to the dog, then to his sister. "She told you she wasn't doing anything. The dog seems a bit much for a conversation, don't you think?" "This animal is a certified K-9 unit," Thorne spat. "And you're interfering. That's a felony." He jerked the leash again, a clear act of intimidation. "Maybe he needs to check you for weapons." Jason took one slow step forward. "You enjoy this, don't you? The power. Scaring a girl half your size." He looked at the rookie. "You signed up for this? To be his muscle while he bullies kids." Officer Evans paled, looking away. Thorne's face flushed with anger. "Last chance, old man. Walk away." He uttered a sharp, guttural command in another language. Rage responded instantly, its growl deepening as it prepared to launch. But Jason was already moving. In a blur of motion, he stepped not away, but diagonally into the attack. As the dog leaped, he didn't strike it. He caught the harness midair, using the animal's own momentum to redirect it. With a technique born from years of close-quarters combat, he applied pressure to a specific point on the dog's neck while simultaneously twisting its body. The pit bull landed on the grass with a surprised yelp, its aggression instantly neutralized. Jason gave its ear a quick, firm rub. The dog, confused but no longer hostile, lay down panting. Thorne stared in disbelief, his jaw slack. "What did you?" He never finished. Jason closed the distance in a single step. Before Thorne could even reach for his baton, Jason's hand shot out, grabbing the wrist of the hand holding the leash. He applied a precise wrist lock, rotating it in a way that sent a jolt of pure agony up Thorne's arm. The officer cried out, his body forced to follow the motion. With a controlled push, Jason sent him stumbling to the ground. The leash fell from his limp fingers. The rookie, Evans, finally reacted, fumbling for his taser. "Don't," Jason said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. He hadn't even looked at him, his attention still on the disarmed Thorne. "Unless you want to find out what a collapsed lung feels like." Evans froze, the taser half drawn. From the distance, the sound of sirens began to rise. Someone had called it in. Jason knelt beside Chloe, his expression softening as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You all right?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and threw her arms around him. "I was so scared." "I know," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I'm here now." The approaching sirens grew louder, their red and blue lights painting the graffiti-covered walls in frantic, pulsing strokes. The real fight, he knew, was just beginning. 2 more cruisers screeched to a halt, boxing in the small, tense scene. 4 officers emerged, weapons unholstered, their faces grim masks of professional caution. Leading them was a man built like a refrigerator, with a thick gray mustache and the weary eyes of a career cop. Captain Rostova. His gaze swept the area, taking in Thorne on the ground, clutching his wrist, a terrified rookie, a shaken girl, a calm pit bull, and Jason Statham standing over it all like a hawk. Rostova's eyes narrowed slightly. He recognized Statham from a police charity boxing match years ago. He knew the man's reputation. What in God's name is going on here? Rostova's voice was a low growl that commanded authority. Thorne scrambled to his feet, his face a mess of rage and humiliation. "Captain, this man assaulted me. He interfered with AK-9 unit and resisted arrest." Jason didn't raise his voice. He simply turned to Rostova. "Your officer was using that dog to terrorize my sister. He gave it an attack command. He told Rage to bite me," Chloe added, her voice stronger now that Jason was there. "He said he'd rip my throat out." Rostova's expression hardened. He turned his gaze on Thorne, a look that could curdle milk. "Is this true, Thorne? Did you threaten a civilian with your K9? She was uncooperative, a suspected vandal," Thorne blustered. "I was following procedure for a high-risk subject." "High risk?" Rostova scoffed, gesturing to the sketchbook that had fallen to the grass. "She looks like a damn art student. And procedure doesn't involve threatening to let a dog maul a young woman. We've had complaints about you, Thorne. About your temper." He looked at the rookie. "Evans, report." Now, Evans swallowed hard, avoiding Thorne's murderous glare. "Sir, we got a call about graffiti, but she was just sitting here." "Officer Thorne," he escalated it. "The man," he gestured to Jason. "He just stopped it." Just then, one of the other officers approached. "Captain, we've got 2 witnesses over by the warehouse. They saw the whole thing. They're saying Thorne was out of control." Rostova's jaw was set like concrete. He took a step toward Thorne. "Badge and weapon. On the hood of the car. Now, you're on administrative leave, pending a full investigation." "Captain, this is bull." "Now," Rostova roared. Sputtering with indignation, Thorne slammed his badge and firearm onto the cruiser's hood. He shot Jason a look of pure venom. This isn't over. As Thorne was escorted away, Jason focused on making sure Chloe was okay. Paramedics had arrived, but she waved them off, refusing to leave his side. The pit bull Rage was now being handled by a new animal control officer. Its demeanor entirely changed. It was calm, almost docile, responding to the gentle commands. "It's not the dog's fault," Jason said to the handler. "Just a bad owner." As the chaos began to subside, 2 men appeared at the edge of the police cordon. They didn't look like cops. Dressed in expensive but nondescript dark jackets and slacks, they moved with an unnerving confidence. The older one had a face like a clenched fist. The younger one had dead, watchful eyes that never seemed to blink. They didn't speak to Rostova. They just watched, their gazes fixed on Jason. Jason felt their stare, a professional assessing a professional. He met their eyes across the yellow tape. The older man gave a barely perceptible nod, not of greeting, but of acknowledgement. A predator recognizing another. Chloe noticed them and shivered, pulling closer to Jason. "Who are they?" "Trouble," Jason said quietly. "The kind that doesn't wear a uniform." The men observed for another minute, their expressions unreadable, then turned and melted back into the shadows of the industrial park. They weren't cops, and they weren't investigators. They were something else. Jason knew their type. They were the cleanup crew, the enforcers who operated in the gray spaces where badges didn't reach. Thorne wasn't just a rogue cop. He was part of something bigger. And by intervening, Jason hadn't just saved his sister. He had kicked a hornet's nest. A very big, very dangerous nest. The problem wasn't just Thorne. It was the system that protected him. An hour later, the park was quieter, but the tension remained, clinging to the air like industrial smog. Most of the police presence had cleared out, leaving only Captain Rostova and a skeleton crew to finish the reports. Chloe sat on the back of an ambulance, a blanket draped over her shoulders, sipping from a bottle of water. She'd given her statement, her voice steady and clear. The artist in her had observed every detail. Jason stood a few feet away, leaning against an old brick wall, his arms crossed. He was watching the entrance to the park, his senses on high alert. He knew the two men in dark jackets were just the overture. The real response would be less subtle. Rostova approached him, a tablet in his hand. "Her statement matches the witnesses perfectly," Rostova said, his voice low. "Thorne isn't deep. We're pulling his file, and it's not pretty. A history of excessive force complaints, all swept under the rug." He sighed, the sound heavy with frustration. "Thanks for not escalating it further than you did. When you disarmed him, I mean, it could have been a bloodbath." "He was a bully with a weapon," Jason replied, his gaze still fixed on the darkness. "You don't reason with a rabid dog. You put it down." Their conversation was cut short by a scuffle near the main path. One of the witnesses, a young man who had been filming the incident on his phone, was being cornered by two large, off-duty cops Jason recognized from the precinct. They weren't in uniform, but they had the same arrogant swagger as Thorne. "You think you're a hero, filming a brother officer?" One of them snarled, grabbing the man's shirt. "Why don't you delete that video before your phone has an accident?" The young man struggled, trying to hold onto his phone. "It's evidence. Let me go." Before Rostova could even react, Jason was moving. He covered the 20 yards in a silent, predatory rush. He didn't shout a warning. He simply grabbed the shoulder of the cop, holding the witness, and spun him around. "Let him go," Jason said, his voice flat and cold. The cop, burly and overconfident, sneered. "For what, Grandpa? You gonna try another one of your party tricks?" The cop threw a clumsy telegraph punch. Jason swayed back, the fist whistling past his ear. He stepped inside the man's guard, delivering a single, precise palm heel strike to his sternum. The air left the man's lungs in a pained whoosh, and he staggered back, gasping. The second cop reached for something under his jacket, but Jason was already on him. He grabbed the man's arm, twisting it behind his back in a painful lock, and slammed him face first against the side of a shipping container. "Tell your friends," Jason whispered into the man's ear, his voice a chilling promise. "Thorne, the men in suits, all of you, stay away from my sister. Stay away from the witnesses. This is your only warning." He released the man, who slumped to the ground, clutching his shoulder. Jason turned back to the stunned witness and helped him up. "You all right?" The young man nodded, speechless. "Give that video to the captain. Don't erase a single frame." Rostova and his remaining officers arrived, their faces a mixture of shock and begrudging respect. Rostova just shook his head. "I turned my back for 2 minutes. They're a cancer, Captain," Jason said, his eyes blazing. "You cut out one tumor, but the disease is still spreading." Later, as things finally settled, Chloe approached him. The fear in her eyes had been replaced by something else. Awe. She held out her sketchbook. On a fresh page, she had drawn a quick, powerful charcoal sketch. It depicted a lion, weathered and scarred, standing protectively over a smaller, more delicate gazelle, while jackals circled in the shadows. She hadn't drawn their faces, just the feeling. "That's how I saw you," she whispered. Jason took the sketchbook, his rough fingers tracing the lines of the drawing. He looked at the fierce loyalty in the lion's eyes and saw a reflection he rarely acknowledged. For a moment, the hard ex-soldier vanished, and he was just a brother. He carefully tore the page from the book, folded it, and placed it in his pocket. A silent promise. A piece of light against the coming dark. The last of the police cruisers finally pulled away, their taillights disappearing into the city's glow. A deceptive peace settled over Red Hook Park. Chloe and her mother, who had arrived frantic and relieved, were being escorted home by a trusted patrol car sent by Rostova. Jason had insisted on staying behind. He told them he needed a moment to clear his head, but they both knew the truth. He was the rear guard. He was waiting. He stood in the center of the plaza, a lone figure under the stark, lonely glow of the security lamps. The industrial skeletons around him were now draped in deep shadow, perfect cover for an ambush. He could feel it in the air, the electric charge of imminent violence. He wasn't afraid. He was ready. This was his element. A low whistle echoed from the direction of an old loading bay. It was a signal. He turned slowly, his body already poised. Two figures emerged from the gloom. It was the men in the dark jackets, the observers. This time, their professional veneer was gone. The older man held a heavy crowbar, its hooked and gleaming. The younger one unwrapped a length of cloth to reveal a telescoping steel baton, which he extended with a menacing flick. "We warned you," the older man growled, his voice like grinding gravel. "You should have walked away. You just had to be a hero." "There are no cameras now, old man," the younger one added, his dead eyes fixed on Jason. "No weaknesses. Just a mistake that needs correcting." Jason didn't reply. He let the silence stretch, forcing them to make the first move. The younger man lunged, fast and aggressive, swinging the baton in a wide arc aimed at Jason's ribs. Jason didn't retreat. He pivoted on his left foot, letting the momentum of the swing carry the baton past him. In the same fluid motion, he stepped in, striking the man's wrist with the heel of his hand. Bones crunched. The man screamed as the baton clattered to the pavement. Jason followed through with a short, brutal elbow strike to the jaw. The man went down, unconscious before he hit the ground. The older man roared in fury and charged, swinging the crowbar like a medieval axe. Jason sidestepped the clumsy, downward blow, the crowbar smashing into the concrete with a shower of sparks. As the man recovered, Jason moved in, not to strike, but to control. He grabbed the arm holding the crowbar, trapping it against his own body, and drove a series of hard, punishing knees into the man's thigh, targeting the femoral nerve. The man's leg went numb, and he stumbled. Jason twisted, using the man's own weight against him, and threw him headfirst into a steel support beam. The fight was over in less than 10 seconds, but he knew it wasn't the end. From the darkness between the shipping containers, more figures emerged. 4 of them. They weren't professionals. They were thugs, enforcers. Thorne's off-duty friends and their associates. They carried pipes, baseball bats, and a length of heavy chain. They spread out, circling him, their intentions clear. One of them smirked. "You made some powerful enemies tonight. We're here to collect the debt. You think this is one of your movies?" Another one taunted. "You're just one man." Jason's voice cut through the night, cold and absolute. "You brought clubs to a gunfight. You just don't realize I'm the gun." They attacked together. The man with the chain swung it in a vicious circle. Jason moved forward, into the arc, catching the chain on his forearm. He yanked the man off balance and drove him into the path of the one swinging a baseball bat. The 2 thugs collided in a heap. A third came from the side with a pipe. Jason ducked under the swing, grabbed the man's waist, and lifted, driving him backward and slamming him down onto a pile of discarded metal pallets. The last man hesitated, his eyes wide with fear. He turned to run. Jason was on him in 2 strides. He didn't hit him. He simply swept his legs out from under him, letting him crash hard onto the pavement. Silence. 6 men were scattered on the ground, groaning, broken. Jason stood among them, his breathing steady, untouched. He looked up as the distant sound of sirens returned. Rostova. He must have anticipated this. The captain arrived to a scene of carnage. He stepped out of his car, his eyes taking in the downed men and the solitary, unshaken figure of Jason Statham. He didn't look surprised, just grimly satisfied. "I had a feeling they might come back for an encore," Rostova said. "They needed to be reminded of the rules," Jason replied, his gaze sweeping over the wreckage of the ambush. Rostova looked at the faces of the downed men, recognizing a few as suspended officers. His jaw tightened. "Tonight," he said, "you didn't just save your sister. You started taking out the trash for the whole department." What happened in that park wasn't just about one bad cop or a single act of courage. It was a reminder that true strength isn't found in a badge or a weapon, but in the unwavering will to stand for what's right, especially when you're standing alone. It showed that sometimes, to protect the peace, you have to be more dangerous than anything that threatens it. Have you ever seen someone in authority abuse their power and felt helpless to stop it? What would you have done if you saw Chloe being threatened like that, even before Jason arrived? Do you think there are moments when breaking the rules is the only way to uphold true justice? We want to know what you think, so drop your honest opinion in the comments below. Let's talk about it respectfully. If this story reminded you that one person can still make a difference, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about everyday heroes and extraordinary courage. Share this with someone who needs to see that it's never wrong to stand up to a bully, no matter what uniform they wear. We read every single comment you post. More stories about justice and unexpected heroes are waiting for you on the screen right now. Click on one of those next, and we'll see you in the next video with another story that will have you on the edge of your seat.